When I found that box of emergency contraceptives in my husband's car, I didn't cry. I calmly replaced the pills with folic acid. 2 months later, my best friend wept like a rain-soaked pear blossom in front of me, saying she had an unplanned pregnancy. I looked at her, then glanced at my flustered husband standing beside her. I knew it, the pregnancy prep drama I'd orchestrated myself had officially begun. The stifling air in the car, laced with the familiar cedar fragrance of his cologne, churned my stomach into knots. Today was our 3rd wedding anniversary. I deliberately wrapped up my afternoon meeting early and took a detour to pick up that wristwatch he'd been raving about for the past 2 months. It was meant to be a meticulously planned surprise. But when I fished for a forgotten document and opened the glove compartment on his passenger side, that surprise instantly hardened into a cold, leaden weight, crashing straight into my heart. A glaring blue pill box. Emergency contraceptives. Beneath it, a crumpled receipt from the hot spring resort on the outskirts of town, the very one we had visited just last month. My mind went blank for a moment, and then countless details I had deliberately ignored surged into my thoughts like a relentless tide, each one scrambling to the forefront. During that hot spring vacation, my best friend Athena just happened to be there for a team-building event. Smiling sweetly, she said, "Vera, I won't disturb your little getaway with Casper. I'll get my own room, you two enjoy some time to relax." Looking back now, that so-called thoughtfulness was utterly ridiculous. And for nearly 2 months, Casper had returned home each time with an inexplicable exhaustion hanging over him. I thought it was just the usual stress from work and even made various nourishing soups to help him recover. The way he avoided my gaze as he sipped the soup, I had mistaken it for concern for my efforts. Now, everything made sense. I didn't scream, didn't break down, not even shed a single tear. Tears are the weapons of the weak, and from this moment on, I could no longer afford to be weak. I put the medicine box and receipt back in their place, gently closed the glove compartment, my movements so steady it felt unfamiliar even to myself. When I got home, I didn't expose his so-called overtime, just prepared dinner as usual. After the meal, using a walk as an excuse, I drove to the nearest pharmacy. "Hello, could I get a box of this brand of folic acid, please?" I bought another box of emergency contraceptive pills identical to the ones in his car. Returning to the empty study, I locked the door behind me. Under the desk lamp, I put on medical gloves and used a pair of delicate tweezers to carefully pry open the aluminum foil packaging of the contraceptive pills, extracting the white tablets inside. Then, I opened the folic acid packaging and meticulously replaced the pills one by one with folic acid tablets that were nearly identical in color and size. Throughout the entire process, my hands never trembled. I was like a surgeon performing a precise operation, calm, focused, with nothing left in my heart but icy hatred. After completing all this, I flushed the real box of birth control pills down the toilet, watching them disappear into the swirling vortex. The next morning, while Casper was washing up, I stealthily returned the altered pillbox to his glove compartment without a trace. For the next 2 months, I became a perfect actress, showing more tenderness and care than ever before. I would have his slippers ready when he got home from work and massage his shoulders when he was tired. I even brought up the topic of pregnancy preparation myself. "Casper, we've been married for 3 years, and our parents keep pressuring us. Shouldn't we start trying for a baby?" Every time, he would avert his gaze and vaguely brush it off, citing the critical phase of a company project or overwhelming stress. As for my dear friend Athena, she took the act to another level. She often insinuated hints in front of me, "Vera, you're so lucky to have Casper, so capable and devoted to your family. But you know men, ambitious, burdened with responsibilities, you should be more understanding and not add to his stress by pushing for a child." Her sweet, innocent face had always seemed full of concern for me. Now, I realize every expression on it reeked of sickening self-satisfaction and testing waters. I played along with their act, all the while calmly counting down. On the first day of the 3rd month, Athena finally invited me to our usual cafe. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen and red. The moment she saw me, tears began to stream down uncontrollably. Trembling, she pulled out a pregnancy test from her bag, two distinct red lines staring back at us. Vera. I'm sorry. I'm such a scoundrel. She wept with pearly tears, her voice choked with sobs. That day, the night at the hot springs resort, the company dinner. I drank too much. Casper took me back to my room. I don't know how it happened. What a cliché drunken mistake. I didn't say a word, just quietly watched her act. Then, right in front of her, I dialed Casper's number. Honey, come to the old place cafe now. Athena's here, and something's happened. 20 minutes later, Casper pushed the door open. When he saw the pregnancy test on the table and Athena sobbing uncontrollably, he froze completely, his face instantly turning as pale as a sheet of paper. His lips trembled as he looked at me, his eyes filled with panic, fear, and pleading. Vera, listen to me, it's not what you think. I ignored him, stood up, and walked over to Athena, taking her cold hand in mine. My voice was as soft as a feather. Don't be scared, Athena. We're best friends, aren't we? No matter what happens, I'll help you. Both Athena and Casper were stunned. The breakdown, the screaming, the hysteria they had anticipated, none of it came. Their eyes held identical expressions of disbelief and the relief of having survived a disaster. I turned to Casper, even managing to wear a gentle smile on my face. Honey, the most important thing now is to soothe Athena's emotions and take care of her health, isn't it? He nodded mechanically, like a puppet on strings, subconsciously, helplessly. As I looked at these two people who were once the closest to me, my heart felt like a frozen pond. The actors were all in place. The lighting and scenery were ready. The revenge drama I had meticulously orchestrated was officially about to begin. Late at night, the bedroom was enveloped in complete silence. Beside me, Casper's body was rigid, his breathing deliberately steady as he feigned deep sleep. I lay with eyes wide open, sleepless, allowing fragmented memories to run wild in the darkness. I remembered back in college, Casper was just a poor boy in faded jeans, buried in books at the library. I was the one who pursued him, the one who admired his unyielding spirit. Back then, I even played matchmaker for him and his then-girlfriend, a junior from an equally modest background. And Athena, my best friend, was always by my side, saying in a tone laced with pity and a hint of contempt, Vera, you have such good taste. Casper is so outstanding, it's a shame that girl wasn't worthy of him, just dragging him down. Later, they broke up, and Casper was heartbroken and depressed. I was the one who stayed by his side, encouraging him. After graduation, I used my parents' connections and our family's savings to support him in starting his own business. Our company grew from a small workshop of just a few square meters to a well-known design studio in the city. I was the lead designer, the soul of the team, and also the biggest investor. Casper was the general manager, responsible for external communication and management. Right after Athena graduated, I brought her into the company and made her the administrative director. I treated her like a sister, paying her a salary far above the industry average for her position and keeping no secrets from her about company matters. Naively, I believed the three of us would form an unbreakable bond, an invincible trio. Looking back now, all those so-called concerns were nothing but meticulously planned setups. For nearly a year, Athena had been whispering in my ear, Vera, look how exhausted Casper has been lately, his eyes are all sunken. It's tough for a man out there trying to make a living, you shouldn't add to his troubles at home. And Casper, he would always bring up at the dinner table, Athena handles so many miscellaneous company affairs all by herself, it's really hard on her. You should take care of her more often and not let her get too worn out. They played off each other seamlessly, one acting as the understanding confidant, the other as the devoted and responsible leader. It turned out their concern had long bypassed me, the wife and the best friend, and converged directly between themselves. How laughable. I detached myself from the sting of betrayal, leaving only cold calculation in my heart. I turned over gently and softly nudged the stiff figure beside me. Casper, are you asleep? Casper startled at my voice, mumbling a vague reply. I switched on the bedside lamp, the dim yellow light illuminating his face, which was etched with guilt. Sitting up, I leaned against the headboard, my voice eerily calm. "I've been thinking all night." Casper swallowed nervously, his body taut as a fully drawn bow. "I think we can't just ruin you like this, nor let Athena be gossiped about. More importantly, I don't want my parents to know about this, their hearts couldn't take the shock." Each of my words acted like a sedative, precisely calming his frantic nerves. He looked at me, his gaze shifting from fear to confusion, and finally, tinged with an incredible sense of gratitude. I proceeded to present my plan. "We'll get a fake divorce first. To protect your reputation, we'll publicly state that we had an irreconcilable breakdown and parted amicably. The company shares and properties under our names will be temporarily transferred to me. This way, you can reluctantly take responsibility for Athena, and it'll be easier to explain to your parents. Once things with Athena settle down, the baby is born, and the dust has settled, we'll—" I left the sentence unfinished, but it was enough. Casper, the quintessential freeloader, cared most about the career he'd painstakingly built and the successful man image he'd worked so hard to cultivate. My proposal undeniably offered him the perfect way out, allowing him to resolve this colossal mess while preserving his reputation and interests. His eyes instantly turned red. He grabbed my hand, his voice choked with emotion. "Vera, why are you so good to me? I'm the jerk, I'm the one who wronged you, I made the mistake that all men make." He began pouring out his confessions, saying that I was always the one he loved most in his heart, claiming that what happened with Athena was just a momentary lapse of judgment. I watched his dramatic performance without a flicker of emotion, even feeling slightly nauseated. "Stop," I interrupted him, "none of this matters now. What's important is solving the problem." The next day, I met with Athena. When I told her about the fake divorce plan, she was first shocked, then overwhelmed with gratitude. She clung to my hand, weeping and swearing she would repay me for the rest of her life, even if it meant serving me like a beast of burden. She said the only thing she wants is Casper himself, and would never covet anything of mine. I looked at her hypocritical face and smiled, even thoughtfully suggesting that I temporarily transfer the small downtown apartment under my name to her for pregnancy comfort, so she wouldn't have to live elsewhere. Casper and Athena were completely taken in by my high-minded maneuver. Eager to get rid of this hot potato as soon as possible, Casper couldn't wait to sign the property division agreement drafted by the lawyer I hired. The agreement clearly states, the marital relationship between both parties has broken down, and they voluntarily agree to divorce. All jointly owned assets after marriage, including 100% of the company shares, 3 properties, and 2 cars, shall be awarded to the wife, Vera. The husband, Casper, voluntarily relinquishes all properties. On the day of signing, Casper looked at me with a complicated expression, guilt, reluctance, but mostly a sense of relief, as if a burden had been lifted. He thought it was just a temporary expedient to placate me. Little did he know, from the moment he put pen to paper, he had already lost everything. The procedures were completed quickly. On the day we received the divorce certificate, I personally helped Athena move into my small apartment. "Athena, the environment here is nice, and it's close to the hospital. Settle in peacefully and take good care of your pregnancy. Don't overthink things." I helped her put away her suitcase, just like a true confidant. "Vera, She was moved beyond words. I patted her shoulder, then left with a smile. Before I walked out, I had already installed pinhole cameras in both the living room and bedroom of that apartment. That night, I sat in my study and opened my laptop. The surveillance footage came through clearly. Casper and Athena held each other tightly in the apartment. "Darling, we can finally be together openly now." Athena's voice brimmed with triumphant joy. "I know you've suffered," Casper embraced her, kissing her forehead. "Once this storm passes, we'll remarry. Then the company, the house, everything will be ours. I always knew you loved me the most, Casper." That Vera, so cold and rigid, like a block of wood, she could never understand you the way I do. Expressionless, I watched the revolting celebration of victory by that despicable pair on the screen. Picking up my phone, I sent a message to my lawyer, Phase 1, complete. After moving into that pregnancy-safe apartment, Athena quickly revealed her greedy nature. She was no longer the plainly dressed, diligent administrative supervisor at the company, nor the weak, pitiful, guilt-ridden mistress in front of me. She had comfortably settled into the role of a kept woman. Morning sickness became her perfect excuse. She stopped going to the office, sleeping in every day before bossing Casper around. Today she craves desserts from that trendy restaurant in the south of the city, tomorrow she sets her eyes on the latest designer bag at the boutique. Swiping Casper's supplementary card without batting an eyelid. I meticulously screenshotted and saved each of those flurrying expense bill messages one by one. The surveillance camera faithfully recorded every single thing she did. She never actually suffered from any morning sickness. Every day, she was full of energy, spending hours on the phone with different friends, bragging about how she hit the jackpot at once and locked down Casper, the so-called rising star. You have no idea how foolish Vera is, she still thinks I'm her best friend. She even suggested a sham divorce herself and gave me the house to live in. So ridiculously stupid. Once the baby is born, I'll be Casper's wife, and then the entire company will be mine. Let's see how she can still act all high and mighty in front of me. Listening to her sharp, grating laughter through the headphones, I calmly edited and saved each of these recorded clips. These would all serve as evidence in court. Claiming poor spirits after the divorce, I took a long leave from work and began sorting through Casper's old belongings at home, calling it a complete farewell to the past. Casper didn't have much. Most of it was bought by me. I packed up those designer suits, cufflinks, and ties one by one, preparing to donate them to charity. In the corner of the study, I unearthed a dusty box containing his old college textbooks and a long outdated laptop. On a whim, I found the charger and plugged it in. Surprisingly, the computer still powered on. In the old system drive, I discovered an encrypted folder. My gut told me there was something inside. I tried a few common passwords, Casper's birthday, my birthday, our wedding anniversary, none of them worked. I suddenly remembered something Athena had once mentioned casually, Casper is really devoted. Back in college, he was incredibly good to that first love of his. Relying on memory, I entered the birthday of Casper's first girlfriend. The folder clicked open with a sound. My heart skipped a beat. I expected to see some unsightly love letters or photos, but the contents of the folder sent a chill down my spine. They weren't love letters. Instead, it was a series of emails exchanged between him and a foreign medical institution, along with a scanned copy of his uncle's electronic medical records. The dates on the emails spanned the entire 5 years from our courtship to after our marriage. He was consulting about a disease I had never heard of, Huntington's chorea. With trembling hands, I opened the medical record. The record clearly stated that his uncle had died 8 years ago due to complications from the same disease. At the end of the record, a detailed description of the illness was attached. Huntington's chorea is an autosomal dominant neurodegenerative disorder. The clinical manifestations include choreiform involuntary movements, psychiatric abnormalities, and progressive dementia. The most deadly line of text seared into my retinas like a red-hot branding iron. This disease is dominantly inherited. Children of the patient, regardless of gender, have a 50% risk of developing the condition. My brain buzzed violently, as if 10,000 bees were rampaging inside it. In that instant, I understood everything. Casper didn't not want children. He didn't dare. He didn't dare to gamble on that 50% chance with me, his lawfully wedded wife, the one he planned to spend his life with, the one from a well-off family. He was afraid of bringing a potentially unhealthy child into the world, one that would tarnish our seemingly perfect lives. He feared my family and our future life would be dragged into the abyss by this terrifying hereditary disease. That's why he kept postponing the pregnancy plans. That's why he chose to cheat with Athena and made her take contraceptives. Because in his heart, Athena was nothing more than a disposable outlet, someone he never had to take responsibility for or consider a future with, let alone allow her to bear a child who might carry the so-called curse. And what about me? The woman he claimed to love the most was kept in the dark for 8 whole years. Under the guise of love and protection, he spun an intricate web of lies, trapping me within his deceit. He robbed me of the right to know the truth. He stole from me, a woman, a wife, the fundamental choice to shape my own life. A betrayal more violent, more disgusting than when I discovered his infidelity instantly overwhelmed every fiber of my being. This wasn't just a simple affair, it was a denial and deception of my entire life. I sat on the icy floor, trembling like a leaf in the autumn wind. A bone-chilling cold crept from the soles of my feet all the way to my heart. I thought I had married love, turns out, I was just a prop he used to whitewash his own selfish and cowardly life. It took a long time before I finally snapped out of the overwhelming shock and rage. I stood up, walked to the desk, and copied all the data from the hard drive onto an encrypted USB drive. This secret would be the final straw that breaks him. A more ruthless and meticulous plan than before gradually took shape in my mind. What I wanted wasn't just to ruin him, leaving him with nothing. I wanted him to admit his cowardice and selfishness with his own mouth, to make him pay the most painful price for the fraud he committed against my life. Casper's parents came to our company a week later. The 2 elderly folks came from the countryside, covered in dust, their faces etched with fury at being deceived and a resolute determination to seek justice for their son. They headed straight for the general manager's office, only to find it empty. The receptionist didn't recognize them and stopped them from entering, sparking a loud argument at the entrance. I stepped out of the designer's office when I heard the commotion. My assistant rushed over with a tense expression. "Boss, Casper's parents are here making a scene at the front desk. Should we call security?" "No need." I straightened my suit jacket and said calmly, "Have them come to my reception room. I'll meet them personally." The assistant was taken aback but complied. In the reception room, Casper's mother was about to unleash her anger the moment she saw me. "You heartless woman. What has my son ever done to wrong you? You want a divorce? Now you're even kicking him out of the company." I didn't wait for her to finish speaking. I took the initiative, my eyes instantly welling up without shedding tears, my gaze precisely conveying grievance, restraint, and profound sorrow. "Dad, Mom." That single address choked back the torrent of curses they'd prepared in their throats. "I'm sorry." I lowered my head, my voice hoarse. "It's all my fault. I didn't take good care of Casper, and his work stress was too much, which led to his mistake." My self-criticism caught them off guard. Then, I took a folder from my assistant and placed it on the coffee table in front of them. "Mom, Dad, I know I couldn't bear a child for Casper, I failed him. Now that Athena is pregnant with Casper's baby, I can finally put my heart at ease. This is something I put together. I meant to mail it to you when I had the chance." Casper's father opened the folder in confusion. Inside was not any legal agreement, but a thick ledger. The first page contained receipts from 5 years ago for the complete set of home appliances I'd bought for their hometown home, neatly pasted in place. The second page listed every red envelope I'd given them during holidays over the years, along with the New Year's money for Casper's younger siblings, every bank transfer record printed in meticulous detail. The third page documented how much money and connections I'd spent to secure Casper's good-for-nothing younger brother a job at a state-owned enterprise after his graduation, each transaction recorded clearly, line by line. I didn't say a single word about asking them to repay the money, but I knew these black and white records spoke louder than any words ever could. The color in Casper's mother's face slowly shifted from crimson to awkward discomfort. I continued in that aggrieved yet magnanimous tone, "Mom, Dad, I know there are many things I haven't done well over the years, and in the future. I won't be able to care for you in person anymore. It's good that Casper and Athena are together, as long as he's happy, I'll be fine. But..." I pivoted, injecting a note of concern into my voice. "It's just that I've always been a little worried about Casper's health. We tried for a baby for so long without any success, and I always thought it was my fault. I went to so many hospitals for tests, and the results all said there was nothing wrong with me. Now that Athena got pregnant so quickly, it proves Casper is perfectly healthy, and I can finally put my mind at ease. A few seemingly offhand remarks from me were like needles, piercing the hearts of the two elders. They were traditional people who valued family lineage above all else. But you know, I continued casually, Athena is really careless. Even though she's pregnant, she still wears makeup every day, runs around in high heels, and doesn't watch her diet, eating everything from ice-cold to spicy foods. Young people can be so reckless. I'm really worried about the baby in her belly. Casper's father's brows furrowed tightly. Seeing that the timing was right, I dropped the final bombshell. Oh, by the way, Mom and Dad, the company recently secured a huge project. It was introduced by one of Dad's old comrades, and the profits are very substantial. The client has high demands, insisting that the project manager must be in good health, energetic, and able to travel frequently for long-term follow-ups. I was originally thinking of having Casper take charge of this project since he's the company's general manager. It'd be the perfect opportunity for him to prove his capabilities. I let out a sigh, my face full of regret. Alas, but now, he has to take care of the pregnant Athena, and with all the household affairs, he's probably stretched too thin. As a woman, I can't handle it alone either, so I'm considering if this project can be outsourced. What? Casper's mother sprang to her feet with a sharp cry. Her son's future was her lifeline. Just then, the door to the reception room was pushed open. Casper and Athena, who had rushed over after receiving the news, appeared at the doorway. When they saw the bizarre scene of me and his parents happily chatting, they were instantly thrown into a panic. Dad, Mom, what are you doing here? Casper's voice trembled. Casper's mother ignored him and didn't even glance at the ingratiating smile on Athena's face beside her. She grabbed her son, pulling him in close, and in a hushed tone that only the immediate group could hear, she pressed urgently, "Tell me the truth, is there something wrong with your health? Why couldn't you conceive before? And what about that big project? How could you let a woman derail such a golden opportunity?" I stood up, wearing a polished smile, and excused myself from the elderly couple. "Mom, Dad, I have a meeting to attend. I won't intrude on your family reunion any longer." I walked past the pale-faced Casper and Athena, even giving Athena a slight smile. "Athena, take care of yourself, and look after your parents-in-law too." I didn't look back, but I could imagine the chaos unfolding behind me. I knew I had personally ignited a fire in Casper's rear. This fire was enough to burn their so-called bright future to ashes. The seeds of doubt I had planted quickly took root in his parents' hearts. Casper's mother moved into the small apartment under the pretext of taking care of her pregnant daughter-in-law, a legitimate reason in her eyes. The stage was thus set for a full-blown mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law war. The hidden cameras in the apartment became my perfect window to watch the daily drama unfold. Casper's mother couldn't stand Athena's pampered ways. "You're about to become a mother, yet you sleep until the sun is high in the sky every day." When I was pregnant with Casper, I still had to work in the fields with a big belly. "How much is this dress?" $3,000? A piece of fabric costs $3,000? Are you trying to ruin the family? Don't order takeout every day, outside food is so unclean. It's bad for my precious grandchild. Athena was no pushover either. Spoiled by her parents since childhood, she had never tolerated such treatment. "Mom, what era is this? Women should treat themselves better. Casper bought this for me willingly. If you're concerned about the money, tell him not to buy things for me. I can't get used to your cooking, it's too greasy." The two of them argued daily, from dietary habits to spending patterns, with the conflict escalating constantly. Casper, caught in the middle, was in a constant state of distress. On one side was his domineering mother, and on the other was the woman carrying his child. He was overwhelmed and called me repeatedly, hoping I could persuade his mother. "Vera, my mom only listens to you. Could you talk to her and ask her to stop picking on Athena so much?" I responded with a distant and helpless tone, politely declining. "Casper, we're already divorced. I'm now a shareholder in your company, your parents' ex-daughter-in-law in their eyes. It's inappropriate for me to interfere in your family matters now. It would only make Athena's position harder and make your mother resent her even more. My refusal was perfectly reasonable, leaving him with no grounds for rebuttal. While the fire burned hotter at home, I wasn't idle at work either. As the company's largest shareholder, I convened a full board meeting, though, admittedly, I was now the only shareholder left on the board. At the meeting, I officially announced that I would personally lead a specialized task force to oversee the major project mentioned earlier. It was clear to everyone that this was a move to sideline Casper completely. Casper stormed into my office, demanding to know why I was doing this. Vera. What's the meaning of this? I'm still the company's general manager. I leaned back in my executive chair, watching his flustered and furious demeanor with calm composure. Casper, watch your language. First, we are already divorced, please address me as the CEO. Second, you may be the general manager, but I am the legal representative and sole shareholder of the company. I gently pushed the copy of the equity transfer agreement he had personally signed toward him. Major company decisions are mine to make. Any objections? He stared at the agreement, his face alternating between red and pale, unable to utter a single word. You. He struggled for a long time before squeezing out through gritted teeth, you're doing this to get back at me. Get back at you? I laughed. Casper, I'm merely exercising my legal rights as the company owner. If you find family matters too overwhelming and feel drained, you can apply for a long leave, I'll approve it. The company will run just fine without you. Left speechless by my words, he stormed out, slamming the door. Deprived of his career glory and financial control, Casper lost even more ground in front of Athena and his own mother. On the surveillance footage, their arguments grew increasingly frequent and uglier. Casper. Are you even a man? Your mother's practically walking all over me, and you won't even dare to say a word. Athena shrieked. Can't you cut me some slack? My life is a mess at work and at home, and it's all because of you. Casper finally erupted. Because of me? Get this straight. You're the one who can't control your urges. Now look what happened, you got me pregnant, I'm about to lose my job, and you dare blame me? You're completely useless. Athena. Say that again if you dare. The surveillance camera captured them grappling with each other, cups and pillows strewn across the floor. Athena's friend gave her an idea. Athena, you can't just sit back and do nothing now. So what if Casper's mother doesn't approve of you? So what if Casper feels embarrassed about his career setback? You need to escalate things, to turn uncooked rice into a meal. What should I do? Throw a grand gender reveal party. Invite all your classmates, colleagues, relatives, and friends. Announce in front of everyone that you're pregnant with Casper's child. Once the rice is already cooked, even Casper will have to marry you in style just to save face. And his mother won't be able to say a single word against it. Athena thought this was a brilliant idea. She began secretly planning this extravagant party behind the backs of Casper and his mother. She wanted to give me, Casper's parents, and everyone who looked down on her a huge surprise. Through the apartment's surveillance, I saw every bit of her plan clearly. The smile at the corner of my lips grew colder. This was exactly the day I'd been waiting for. This foolish woman was building the most splendid execution ground for herself, with her own hands. And I would be the one to press the execution button. Athena chose the venue for the party at the most luxurious 5-star hotel banquet hall in the city. She spared no expense, the entire hall was decorated as an ocean of pink and blue, with balloons, ribbons, and flowers, dreamy yet tacky. She sent out invitations far and wide, inviting college classmates, work colleagues, and all of Casper's distant relatives in the city. That evening, she wore a tailor-made, expensive maternity gown, with a diamond necklace sparkling under the lights. She clung to Casper, whose expression was stiff and smile forced, moving among the guests like a proud hostess, accepting both sincere and insincere blessings. Casper's parents had been half coerced, half convinced to sit at the main table, their faces sour as if they'd swallowed flies. When I arrived, the party was already in full swing. I wasn't wearing an evening gown. Instead, I donned a sharp crimson suit, stomping in 10-centimeter black heels, my lips aflame. The moment I appeared, the noisy banquet hall eerily quieted down for a few seconds. Every gaze in the room was fixed on me, some filled with sympathy, some with curiosity, and others with schadenfreude. When Athena saw me, the smile on her face instantly froze before she forced herself to greet me with a strained grin. Her hand deliberately caressed her noticeably Athena-swollen belly. "Vera, you came. I was worried you might still be upset and unwilling to bless our union with Casper." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was just enough for everyone nearby to hear. I smiled, brighter than she ever could. "How could I not? You're my best friend, and he's my dearest ex-husband. Now that you two have the fruit of your love, of course I should come to offer my sincerest congratulations." I deliberately emphasized the words best, most beloved, and ex-husband. Athena's face turned pale, then paler. The climax of the party was the cake-cutting ceremony to reveal the baby's gender. A giant fondant cake was wheeled out, and the host, in an emotional tone, invited the expectant father and mother to the stage. Then, the host looked at me. "Today, we also have a very special guest with us. She is Casper's ex-wife and Athena's best friend, Ms. Vera. Let's give a warm round of applause and invite Ms. Vera to the stage to share her blessings for this happy couple." All eyes in the room were once again fixed on me. This was, of course, Athena's arrangement. She wanted to use my magnanimity and blessings in such a setting to flaunt her victory and humiliate me. I stepped onto the stage calmly, taking the microphone from the host. I looked at the audience, Athena's smug face, Casper's mortified expression, and his parents' grim countenances. I smiled. Today, it is truly an honor to stand here. As Athena's best friend, seeing her about to have her own baby fills me with genuine happiness for her. So, I did indeed prepare a special gift for her. I paused, scanning the room. A gift about life and honesty. I gave my assistant a signal from the stage. The massive LED screen at the center of the banquet hall instantly lit up. What appeared on the screen wasn't a congratulatory video or sweet memories of the newlyweds. Instead, it was surveillance footage. The footage showed Athena in the living room of my apartment, wearing a facial mask while talking to her friend on the phone. Her voice, amplified by the hotel's top-tier sound system, echoed crisply throughout the hall. "You have no idea, that fool Vera still thinks I'm her best friend. How laughably stupid. That Casper is just a freeloader who's after her family's money. Once I give birth and secure my position, the first thing I'll do is kick her out of the company. Does she really think I care about being her best friend? I just can't stand her holier-than-thou attitude. Why does she get to have everything? I'm determined to take everything from her." The entire venue instantly fell into dead silence. Then, an uproar erupted, loud enough to shatter the ceiling. Everyone stared in shock at the screen, then at the stage where Athena and Casper's faces had turned beet red in an instant. Casper's mother was shaking with rage, pointing at Athena, her lips trembling too much to speak. "Turn it off. Turn it off now." Athena finally snapped, letting out a piercing scream as she frantically lunged to unplug the device. But it was too late. The grand spectacle she had so meticulously orchestrated turned into a public execution the moment I hit play. Her hypocrisy, malice, and greed were laid bare before everyone in the most brutal and humiliating manner possible. "It's fake. She faked it. Vera, you poisonous wretch. You're just jealous of me." Disheveled and wild-eyed, Athena pointed at me, screaming herself hoarse in a desperate bid to summon last-minute sympathy. The guests murmured among themselves, their eyes filled with disdain and the thrill of watching a scandal unfold. I watched her coldly, as if observing a pitiful clown. Fake? Then is this recording also my fabrication? I raised my phone and pressed play. The second gift made its entrance. It was a private investigator I hired, posing as a psychologist, offering therapy to Casper over the phone. Casper's voice, clear and desperate, came through the speakers. The pressure is too much. I don't dare have a child with Vera. There's a genetic condition in my family, Huntington's disease. My uncle died from it. I'm terrified. What if the child is born unhealthy? How could I face Vera, or her entire family? I'm just a liar, I tricked her. With Athena. I was just momentarily confused. I never thought about a future with her, that's why I made her take the pills. I never imagined she would get pregnant. The recording is quite long, so I've only extracted the most crucial segments. But these few sections are sufficient. If the previous video merely tore off Athena's mask, then this recording completely shattered Casper's persona. The entire venue once again plunged into deathly silence. All the disdainful, disgusted, and incredulous gazes were now directed at Casper on the stage. He was no longer the inspiring young man who had built his fortune from nothing, nor the flawed but sympathetic figure. He had transformed into a cowardly, selfish liar, spewing deceit from his mouth. He became a complete scumbag, a man who, for the sake of his own pride and so-called stability, deceived his wife's emotions, deprived her of her reproductive rights, and used another woman as a mere tool for his gratification. Ah! A scream erupted from the main table. Casper's mother, after hearing the recording, fainted straight from her chair, her eyes rolling back in shock. Casper's father also collapsed into his chair, his face ashen, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. The entire scene spiraled completely out of control. Vera! You ruined me. You ruined me. Finally, Casper broke down from the overwhelming shock and humiliation. His eyes were bloodshot, like a beast driven into a corner, as he roared and lunged at me. Athena, beside him, instinctively tried to grab him, but the utterly deranged Casper shoved her away violently. Get away from me, you bitch. Athena, already unsteady in her high heels, was pushed by him and fell backward. Her heavily swollen belly slammed hard against the sharp metal edge of the massive cake cart behind her. Ah! A scream more piercing than before tore through the banquet hall. Everyone watched in horror as bright red blood rapidly seeped through Athena's expensive white gown, spreading and staining the fabric. The sight was horrifying. Amid the chaos and screams, I stood there, watching coldly. Taking out my phone, I calmly dialed for an ambulance. My tone was as detached as if I were discussing the weather. Hello, is this the emergency center? The banquet hall at the Crown Plaza Hotel. There's someone here who needs urgent medical attention. Yes, a pregnant woman, massive bleeding. Hanging up the phone, I looked at Athena writhing in pain in a pool of blood, at Casper screaming in despair, covering his head, and at the chaos among the panicked guests. I knew this was not the end. This was just the prelude to destruction. The true judgment had only just begun. The hospital's emergency corridor was bathed in a chilling glow under the stark white lights. Casper and his parents, who had just regained consciousness, stood like defeated roosters, dejected and waiting outside the operating room. The light in the operating room went out. The doctor walked out, removed his mask, his face filled with exhaustion and regret. I'm sorry, we did our best. The patient lost too much blood, and the baby didn't make it. Casper's mother collapsed on the spot, pounding her chest and wailing hysterically. My grandson. My unborn grandson. Such a sin. Casper leaned against the wall, his face ashen, his eyes hollow. Just then, a nurse hurried out holding a report, her face filled with confusion. Excuse me, who is Athena's family member? Casper instinctively looked up. The nurse glanced at him, then back at the form in her hand, and frowned. So, the patient's blood type is AB. But on the emergency form just now, the husband listed as family, Mr. Casper, was registered as blood type O. The nurse didn't finish her sentence, but her gaze said it all. The entire hallway fell so silent that the sharp intake of breath from Casper's mother could be heard. Casper froze. Though he wasn't a medical professional, he still had basic biology knowledge. An AB blood type mother and an O blood type father could absolutely, under no circumstances, have an AB blood type child. In an instant, humiliation, fury, absurdity, all these emotions erupted like a volcano, devouring the last shred of his rationality. Like a madman, he shoved open the operating room door and charged inside. Athena. Tell me. Whose child is this? In the hospital room, the sound of Athena's weak and terrified crying mixed with Casper's furious roars could be heard. It was at this moment that I appeared at the end of the hallway with my lawyer. Clad in high heels, I walked step by step, unhurriedly, until I stood before Casper. When he saw me, it was as if he'd seen a ghost, his eyes bloodshot and filled with despair. Without acknowledging him, I handed 2 documents directly to him. One was the termination of employment contract notice stamped with the company's official seal. The other, the asset transfer confirmation agreement we had signed during our divorce. My voice wasn't loud, but it was like a cold hammer, striking word by word into his heart. Casper, according to the divorce agreement we previously signed, 100% of the equity in Fenghua Design Company, Limited, as well as all the real estate and vehicles under our names, now belongs solely to me. Now, as the legal representative of the company, I formally notify you. Due to your personal conduct, which has caused irreparable and severe damage to the company's reputation, and in accordance with the labor contract law and the company's bylaws, we have decided to terminate your employment contract effective immediately. I paused, looking at his face drained of all color, and continued, the car you drive is a company-provided vehicle from your tenure as general manager. The luxury apartment you're currently living in is my premarital asset. According to the agreement, you have 3 days to vacate the residence and return all company property. In other words, you're leaving with nothing. Casper looked at me in disbelief, his body trembling like a sieve. His lips moved, trying to say something, but not a single word came out. I leaned down, close to his ear, and whispered in a voice only the 2 of us could hear, Casper, from the moment I found that box of contraceptives you had hidden, you were already out of the game. At that moment, I saw complete, devastating collapse in those eyes that once captivated me utterly. He had lost. Lost completely, left with nothing. Athena's ending was even more tragic than I had imagined. Not only did she lose the baby and her dream of marrying into wealth, but she also became the biggest laughingstock in the entire city. Upon discovering the child wasn't Casper's, his parents showed her not an ounce of pity. As soon as she was discharged from the hospital, Casper's mother shoved and pushed her out of that small apartment without even letting her take a change of clothes. I later found out that the real father of the child was some shady rich kid she had met at a bar. After their one-night stand, he had vanished without a trace. Penniless and disgraced, Athena wandered the streets like a stray dog for 2 days. She blamed all her resentment on me. Yes, if it weren't for me, she would now be a glamorous wealthy wife. She rushed to our company building, screaming like a madwoman, demanding to see me, swearing to fight me to the death. Vera! You vile bitch! Come out! You ruined everything for me, I'll kill you. Standing behind the floor-to-ceiling windows of my top-floor office, I looked down at the woman below, rolling on the ground in hysterics, utterly deranged. She looked so small, so ridiculous. It was like watching a stranger who had nothing to do with me. The security guard stopped her, and the scene quickly became quite ugly. I called my assistant. Go down and handle it. Don't let it affect the company's image. A few minutes later, my assistant walked up to Athena, holding a brown paper bag. Right in front of all the onlookers, the assistant handed it to her. Athena, the CEO asked me to pass this on to you, the assistant said quietly, but with an unmistakable professional coldness. The CEO said this is the funeral offering for your decade-long friendship, and also the last bit of dignity she, as your former best friend, can give you. It's not much, but enough for a train ticket back to your hometown and to start over somewhere else. Athena numbly took the paper bag and opened it, revealing a thick stack of cash. Staring at the money, she suddenly burst into a mix of laughter and tears, her face streaked with snot and sorrow. Funeral offering, haha, a decade of friendship, funeral offering. Cackling and wailing like a madwoman, she finally staggered into the crowd, clutching the paper bag as she disappeared from sight. From that day on, I never saw her in this city again. Rumor had it she really did take that money and return to her remote little hometown. I went back to my desk, opened my phone, and found Athena's contact. I stared at that once familiar profile picture, the smiling face we'd captured together on a trip. Without the slightest hesitation, I pressed delete. Along with it vanished that humiliating past of betrayal and disappointment. She and I were worlds apart now, never to cross paths again. No company, no house, no money. Casper's life had plummeted from the clouds into the mud overnight. Stained by infidelity, fraudulent marriage, and a family history of genetic diseases, he could no longer survive in the industry. No reputable company was willing to hire him. In the end, he had to settle for a job as a low-level salesperson at a no-name small renovation company, bowing and scraping every day, enduring endless disdain. Only after losing everything did he begin to miss what he once had but never cherished. He started calling and texting me frequently. At first, it was curses, then pleas, and finally, endless confessions of regret. That night, I was working overtime at the company. Somehow, he got wind of it and actually showed up at the building's underground parking lot. He was standing right next to my parking spot. It had been months since we last saw each other, and he looked like he'd aged 10 years. His once crisp suit had been replaced with a cheap set of casual clothes. His face was covered in stubble, his complexion sallow, and his eyes brimming with exhaustion and dejection. When he saw me, he rushed over with a forced smile that looked even more miserable than a frown. "Vera." I stopped in my tracks and gave him a cold stare. "What do you want?" "Vera, I know I was wrong, I truly know I was wrong," he said urgently, his voice pleading. "Will you forgive me? I've always loved only you, I swear. With Athena, I was just bewitched, I made a mistake." He brought up that damn genetic disease again. "I kept it from you for your own good, to protect you. I didn't want you to suffer that pain with me, Protection?" I finally couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. That laughter, in this vast underground garage, sounded particularly jarring and cold. I interrupted his self-indulgent monologue. "Casper, the protection you're talking about is using a lie to keep me trapped like a fool, while comfortably enjoying everything that I and my family brought you? Your so-called protection is robbing me, as a woman, of the right to know the truth, the right to choose my own life, and even, the right to be a mother?" My voice wasn't loud, but every word was like a sharp knife, cutting his hypocritical rhetoric to pieces. "Stop lying to yourself. You don't love me, you love the version of yourself that I helped you become, someone who escaped the poverty of your upbringing, soothed your fragile ego, and paved your way to success. Your betrayal didn't start the moment you slept with Athena. It began 8 years ago, when you chose to keep that secret from me." My questions left him speechless, his face pale. I looked at him, my eyes now devoid of love, barely even hatred, only the cold contempt of seeing through everything. "I never wanted your life. I just took back what was always mine." After speaking, I pulled open the car door and prepared to get in. "Vera." He suddenly dropped to his knees with a thud in front of me, tightly clutching my legs. A man in his 30s, wailing like a child before me. "Please, give me one more chance. Let's start over, okay? I swear, I promise I will." Disgusted, I frowned and tried to pull my leg away forcefully. "Casper, you make me sick." I shook him off, got into the car, and locked the door. Without another glance at him, I stepped on the accelerator, leaving the man kneeling on the ground, weeping bitterly, far behind. In the rearview mirror, his figure grew smaller and smaller, until finally, it turned into a blurry black dot. Between us, aside from those cold legal documents, there is nothing left.